Over the coming weeks, we'll be talking with some political figures who, by any measure, stand out in the crowd. To begin, Sunday morning contributor Mark Whitaker catches up with Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman.
You've described yourself as Governor Wolf's anger translator.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, just look at me. the contrast between myself and the governor is almost comical, when we're standing next to each other.
At 6'8", John Fetterman, the Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, looms tall both in person and in politics.
The Senate will now come to order.
The president can sue a ham sandwich. He can send 1,000 lawyers to Pennsylvania.
The 51-year-old Democrat gained national attention.
Lieutenant Governor Stone Cold is absolutely right.
For his brash and cutting defense of Pennsylvania's vote against false claims of fraud.
All they have is lies. They've had over 3 weeks now to come up with anything concrete.
Especially on Twitter, where he's even more outspoken.
Getting on Twitter every morning is like starting the day with a dog turd and motor oil smoothie. It's horrible. You gotta form that phalanx and push back against that. And I do that in a way that mixes kind of humor and mockery with cold hard facts.
One cold hard fact is that John Fetterman is a blunt-talking, self-described progressive intent on also breaking through with swing voters in the Rust Belt. His pet issues include a higher minimum wage.
If you believe that a human being should toil for $7.25 an hour, vote for the other person.
And legal marijuana, which he says is a winner for either party. You called it a political bazooka.
Yeah, they're arguing over these small wedge issues when they're leaving the bazooka of legal weed, they're on the table for the other side to grab. Like South Dakota, arguably the most conservative state in our country, voted for legal weed straight up and down on the ballot.
In a state that has, a severe opioid problem, why you're talking about legalizing another drug?
Because it's not a drug, it's a plant. It's a gateway to finding a completely natural alternative to the kind of relief that had brought so many people into this toxic spiral with opioids in the first place.
Fetterman was previously the 13-year mayor of Braddock, Pennsylvania, a once thriving steel industry town devastated by decades of poverty, blight, and crime.
Stained glass was placed into a church and window here in Braddock as opposed to taken out. A street.
10 years ago, Jeff Glor reported for Sunday Morning on the efforts of this Harvard grad and former AmeriCorps volunteer to revitalize this largely African-American community.
The 40-year-old Fetterman wears Braddock's past literally on his sleeves. The zip code tattooed on one arm, the dates of murders on the other.
The worst days of my life, because these are days that we lost people through senseless violence.
Today, Braddock isn't perfect, but there are real signs of progress and hope. But as Fetterman showed us on a drive,
over there to the right, that's the Cary Furnace site. It has been fallow since 1986.
Other parts of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt remain decimated.
It literally looks like an extinct mechanical dinosaur.
It is, but it's really...
The white working class voters still here are no longer reliable Democrats.
A majority of voters in the Mon Valley, in this region, are still Democratic, and yet they've been voting Republican and heavily pro-Trump. So why?
We need someone that's going to be doing that talking, that's going to understand that, we all can't work for Google. We all can't, learn how to code when, we're 50 years old.
Right.
Nationally, the Democratic Party base has become more racially diverse, educated, wealthy, and urban.
Do you think Democrats in the last couple of generations have forgotten about working people?
I don't think we've forgotten about them, but I don't think they're the center, the way they should be.
Speaking in the shadow of a U.S. steel plant, Fetterman describes the cost of not putting working people first.
And if we turn our backs on the remaining industries and not reinvest in these places and just say you're on your own, we will lose an entire generation of people that have no other options other than to turn to somebody like Donald Trump and say, wow, well, he at least gets me, he at least cares, he at least pays lip service.
Which is one reason why Fetterman and his family still live in Braddock, in this renovated 1920s Chevy dealership.
Clothes, shoes, books.
right? Always formula and diapers. That's a big item for our family.
His wife, Giselle, runs a charity known simply as the Free Store.
We can look for some books together. What kind of books do you like to read?
The Second Lady of Pennsylvania was born in Brazil and came to the United States poor and undocumented.
Scared of every knock at my door that I wasn't expecting someone because I was worried about being deported. Yeah, you know, when I would leave for school in the morning, my mom would say, "I love you, have a great day, be invisible."
Invisible no longer, last October she captured this verbal assault while out shopping. Her struggles, and those of other immigrants, can nearly bring the imposing John Fetterman to tears.
We as a country have to be better than this kind of anti-immigration rhetoric. And we have to be better than that as a country. My life has been immeasurably enriched by my wife and her family and her immigration story.
John Fetterman is now exploring a run for the Senate in 2022.
In Pennsylvania.
And he has a new distinction to add to his resume.
GQ magazine described you as an American style god.
No, American
taste god.
Yes,
Taste
American,
god, sorry. Yeah.
Which I guess is ironic because I have no taste, but I just am what I am. The fact that somebody that looks as unfortunate as I do sometimes would be an American taste god by the Bible of American taste, you know, I didn't see that coming. You know, talk about your 2020 bingo card, yeah.